Long before anyone tried to invent a gun, one of the most powerful men on Earth was trying to defeat death. Qin Shi Huang had united China, crushed rival kingdoms, and built an empire around his command. He could order thousands of people to move stone, build roads, or march into battle. But he could not order his own body to stop aging. Historical records describe his search for immortality, including expeditions sent to find legendary substances that might extend life. Popular retellings claim that mercury-based medicines helped kill him. That exact cause cannot be proven. What is certain is that his court took the search for eternal life seriously. Qin himself did not invent gunpowder. He died almost 1,000 years before the clearest surviving gunpowder texts. He matters because his obsession did not die with him. For centuries, Chinese rulers, scholars, and Daoist experimenters studied strange minerals and medicines that promised to preserve the body. Some were poisonous. The closer people believed they were getting to immortality, the more dangerous their experiments became. Now picture a dark workshop in medieval China. This next scene is a reconstruction, not a recorded eyewitness account. We do not know the name or face of the first person who created a gunpowder-like mixture. An experimenter heats a new combination. Smoke fills the room. The mixture suddenly erupts into a violent flame. He stumbles backward with burned hands as sparks climb the walls. That image is imagined, but the warning behind it is real. An early Chinese alchemical text describes a mixture that produced smoke and flames, burned the hands and faces of experimenters, and could burn down the building around them. They had not created eternal life. They had created what later became known as fire medicine. And humanity was about to discover that failed medicine could become a very successful weapon. By 1044, a Chinese military manual recorded early gunpowder mixtures and military applications. The substance had escaped the laboratory and entered the machinery of the state. At first, gunpowder was not a gun. It powered fire arrows, bombs, signals, and terrifying bursts of flame. Then Chinese soldiers developed the fire lance, a weapon that projected flame and in later versions, fragments toward an enemy. It was short-ranged, unreliable, and crude. But hidden inside it was the ancestor of the firearm. Early tubes could not survive stronger blasts, so craftsmen increasingly turned to metal. Once a metal barrel could direct the projectile, the flame itself mattered less. By the 13th century, metal-barreled hand cannons had appeared in China. One surviving example from Manchuria is generally dated to the late 1200s. It was not yet a musket. It was awkward, inaccurate, and frightening to use. But it changed the direction of warfare forever. Knowledge of gunpowder and firearms then moved across Eurasia. Historians still debate the exact routes and how much the Mongol conquest accelerated the transfer, so the story is not as simple as one army carrying one secret westward. What we can see is that gunpowder knowledge appeared across the Middle East and Europe during the 13th century, and different societies began adapting it. This is where the story becomes anthropology. No single genius invented the gun. Humans possess what researchers call cumulative culture. We copy useful knowledge, modify it, and pass the improved version to people we may never meet. One generation discovers a reaction. Another contains it. Another turns it into a weapon. Another makes it portable. Another makes it more dependable. The gun was not invented in a moment. It was assembled across centuries. And each improvement changed more than the weapon. It changed the people around it. Early firearms were slow and inaccurate. A skilled archer could often shoot faster, but becoming an expert archer could require years of practice. Firearm troops could be organized in large groups, while their weapons produced smoke, noise, and psychological shock. That did not make bows, knights, or castles disappear overnight. History is rarely that clean. Armor, cavalry, and older weapons survived for centuries. But the balance of power was shifting.
Large cannons made many traditional walls increasingly vulnerable, forcing engineers to redesign fortifications. Handheld firearms made disciplined infantry more dangerous to elite warriors whose status depended on expensive armor, horses, and lifelong training. Technology was slowly rewriting the social hierarchy of war. The next challenge was making firearms easier and more dependable to fire. Matchlocks gave soldiers better control, but they remained awkward and vulnerable to bad weather. Later, wheel locks and flintlocks improved ignition. Then, the bayonet transformed the soldier again. The firearm could now serve both at a distance and during close combat, reducing the need for separate formations of gunmen and pikemen. By the 18th century, the firearm was no longer just a metal object. It was part of a human system. Workshops producing standardized weapons, governments collecting taxes, officers drilling formations, and states maintaining enormous armies. Then the 19th century compressed centuries of change into decades. Percussion systems made ignition more dependable. Rifling improved accuracy. Metallic cartridges made loading faster and more reliable. Breech loading and repeating systems increased the rate of fire. Finally, smokeless propellants reduced the clouds that had once covered battlefields and helped create the recognizably modern firearm. None of these steps was inevitable, and none belonged to one civilization forever. The technology began in China, traveled through connected societies, and was repeatedly changed by craftspeople, soldiers, and states across Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and beyond. That may be the darkest lesson in the story. Humans originally searched for substances that might preserve one body forever. Instead, they found a reaction that allowed societies to project force farther, break stronger defenses, and organize violence on a larger scale. But gunpowder alone did not create the gun. The real engine was something much older and far more powerful: the human ability to remember, to imitate, to cooperate, to compete, and to improve the work of the dead. Qin Shi Huang wanted to defeat death. He failed. But the obsession he represented helped begin a chain of experiments that changed how humans delivered it.